Hey, everybody, thank you so much for coming here to the Bay Cafe. Thank you all. We are here in Staten Island as I cross this state yet again. Announcements of time in the glorious New York City. And yes, I was born here. There are some stats that some of you may not know about New York City, what has made New York City awesome. About 1/3 of the people who live in New York City were not born in the country. I'm born in the country. And about 1/3, yep, there we go. About 1/3 of people who live in New York City aren't born in the city. That means most people who live here are not born here. I'm one of the oddballs. I'm born here. I was born in Manhattan at St. Vincent's Hospital here, and then I was raised as a little kid in South Bronx. I was raised in the 70s. Shows you how old I am. And in the 70s in the South Bronx, where I grew up, right by Yankee Stadium. So I'm a big Yankee fan, obviously. Back in the day, though, old school Yankees. And where I grew up in my day, cabs didn't come to my neighborhood. It's not a thing that happened. So what we had in my neighborhood was a thing called gypsy cabs. Some of you New Yorkers remember that. Older remember gypsy cabs? Yes, you remember? Absolutely. We had no Uber back then. There was no Lyft. It was gypsy cabs. Why do I tell you that? Because gypsy cabs is the way that someone who wanted to hustle made some money without doing some kind of something that might count some violence, right? Did a hustle without having to have a gun or a knife. They could hustle that way. That was a thing that happened a lot when I was a kid. I remember when I was little out in the Bronx, we had people who used to fix cars back in the day when cars were made of metal. And right, you would knock out the dents and then rebuff them out to do that in the street. Cash. Girls used to sit out in the stoop and they would braid hair for money. Right? You remember, there we go. You could braid hair for money. That was the thing that the girls used to do all the time. In New York City now, and in New York State now, to do those things now, you need a license. You might say, well, Larry, that's probably a good thing in your license. To braid hair? To braid hair. To bang out dents in a car. You might go, Larry, I would never go to some guy or some gal who doesn't have a license to repair my car. Great. Then you shouldn't go to that person. But why would you stop somebody else who might want to? I'm not trying to force you to go to somebody who wants to hustle. I just don't want you to stop somebody from hustling. And you might say, wait a minute, thank you. You can clap for that. That's a good hustle. That's a good clap. And you might say, Larry, why does that matter? I'll tell you why that matters. Because right now, what we're seeing across our country, across our state, is a whole lot of violence. A lot of violence. And what's everybody saying? Thank you, nothing. They have no answer for this at all. And I'm going to tell you the answer. Do you know why you have a whole lot of violence every single time? Black market. That's why you have a whole lot of violence, because of the black market. Michael, Larry, the black market's drugs. It is, that's true. But it's not just drugs. I just gave you 3 examples of the black market, didn't I? Gypsy cabs, braiding hair, right? And fixing cars. That's the black market too. You know, I said, well, Larry, does that matter now? It does, because with the lockdowns that the government did because of COVID, the lockdowns made people start thinking, wait a minute, I can't work in my regular job because I'm not essential, right? Our Lord and Master has decided that we're not essential. So I now can't work. How am I going to make my money? Black market. But Larry, I don't have to work in the black market, but I'm getting a check. I want to keep getting my check. If I go work legally, I lose my check. So I guess I'm going to work in the black market so I can double dip, so I can still get my check and still make some money. That's not drugs. That's just people doing work in the black market. You might say, Larry, how does that make violence? I'll give you 2 reasons why that makes violence. The most basic way and then a more hardcore way. The most basic way, I decide I'm going to work in the black market. I go to Rocco and I say, Rocco, I'd like you to do some work for me, and I'll pay you $300 to that work for me. Rocco says, awesome, because I'm getting a check. Larry gets $300 cash. Everybody's happy. Rocco does the work. I go, what $300? What are you talking about? I'm talking about. I thought I said $30. I said 300. Nah, I said 30. Rocco doesn't like that. Rocco's unhappy about that. So what's he going to do? Well, he can't call the cops. It's black market. He can't sue me. It's black market. What does he do? He calls Chance and says, Chance, get your bat. We're going to go visit Larry. That's what he does. He says, Chance, get your bat. We're going to go visit Larry. Well, I hear that Chance is coming over to come see me with his bat. So I say, Hessian, get your gun. Come on. I got black market bottles. But it's not just in that. It's in things. Because once things are locked down and we can't get the things become more valuable, don't they? And when those things become more valuable, now I want lumber. Oh, remember that? Oh, now, yeah, you're laughing. Now I want that. Well, I have a way. It now makes sense for me to steal lumber when it might not have made sense for me to steal lumber. Now it makes sense because I make so much money on it. It's worth me stealing it and taking a risk. And now when Chance comes with his bat, I say, Chance, don't beat me up. Be my bodyguard. Guard the lumber. I'll pay you. That's black market. Again and again and again. But I'll go one step further than that. There are bad people in our life. There are bad people out there, of course. So now I got bad Johnny. He's a bad guy. But regularly, bad Johnny can only do one thing. His own self. He does his own thing, his own bad stuff. But now I lock down our kids and they don't go to school. Now I lock down our jobs and they can't get internships. So what do I have? A bunch of young men with no jobs sitting around. Bad Johnny says, thank you. You have just recruited my gang for me. Thank you, government, for that. And Bad Johnny walks over and says, hey, you bored? I got a way you make some money. I got a way for you to be a tough guy. I got a way for you to help me out. And all of a sudden, Bad Johnny's got a crew. And now we got gang bombs. And now we got gang bombs. More of it. Larry, how do you know that? It's called prohibition. That's exactly what happened. We have prohibition. That is exactly what happened. It's called the war on drugs. That's exactly what happened. And when you begin to end the prohibition, now the guys that Bad Johnny recruited go, you know what? I don't know if I want to take a chance on getting shot in the streets anymore. I can just get a decent job. I can just start a business. I think I'll do that. I bring all of this up to you as an I told you so. Why do I say that?
You told us, Larry.
Because I told you. That is correct, Susan. I did indeed. I told you this 4 years ago. I told you how this works 4 years ago. And in March of 2020, those of you paying attention, I listed exactly how we should have dealt with the COVID problem, lockdowns and everything. I actually have it on video, March 2020, where I gave 6 hours of how we do this, how we fix this, exactly how to deal with it. And I didn't know everything then. This was March of 2020. And I was right. And I was right. We would have had a better outcome. Because here's what I'm sure of. The more you force people to do stuff, the more they don't want to do it. That's just human nature. You don't have to have a degree in psychology for that one. You can figure that one out all on your own. But the more you set up a better environment, the more you will get better outcomes. I don't hate the player. I hate the game. You make a better game, you will get better players. You make a fairer game, you will get fairer players. You make a corrupt game, you get corrupt players. That's how it works. We have to change that. Black market is not the right answer. I want to stop going into the regular, everyday market. Remember when I ran for governor? Those of you remember in 2018 when I ran, I said I want to regulate cannabis like onions. Remember that? Any plant, I don't care if you want to pick onions, carrots, peas, you pick. I'm all good. Why? Because what I said was, if you like your dealer, you can keep your dealer. That's what I wanted to happen. I wanted a guy right now who's giving you his weed, whatever who's giving you weed, to just go, you know what? All I have to do is get an LLC or an S Corp. I'll pay regular tax like everybody else, and I'll be a dealer. Now, if someone steals my weed, I can call the cops. Someone doesn't pay, I can sue them. I can open up a little shop here if I want to. Oh my God. Now all of a sudden what happens? I don't have a black market. We didn't do that in New York State. What we said is, we're going to legalize cannabis. People said, yeah, oh, it's amazing. Anybody have any idea what the license is going to cost? $250,000. $250,000. Correct. Yeah. $250,000. Yes, correct.
And that's not the legal fee.
That is correct. That's just what you got to pay the state. That's the state's cut. That's the state's cut. They get $250,000. That's what they get. What dealer's gonna got $250,000? Just give that up? Only big heavy hitters have that kind of money. You know who's gonna make money on this? Real estate companies. Jay-Z too, I'm sure, because he can invest in real estate companies. That's what they're gonna buy all the land, and they're gonna start creating massive farms. Real estate companies are gonna work. Farmers aren't gonna get anything. Dealers aren't. That's not how it works. Bill Gates is gonna make some money off weed too. Absolutely, all the big guys. What about the dealer? What are they gonna do? You might say, well, they're out of business. They're not. Because what the government did was they taxed it so much, there's going to be somewhere between a 13 and 18% tax. What does that mean? Black market. So all those dealers are still going to deal. And there's still going to be a black market. And there's still going to be violence. And the little guy is still going to be arrested, but not arrested for weed anymore. He's going to be arrested for doing something like tax evasion or selling without a license or something like that. So the war on drug officially ends. But the war on the brown and black business person still goes on and on and on. That war hasn't ended for 50 years. That war's still happening. And that will continue. Larry, how do you know this? California is how I know this. I don't make any of these things up. Everything I tell you, I've got a story about it that actually happened. In California, all the big farmers were like, hey, these black market farmers, they are making money and people aren't buying our stuff. Government, do something. So the California government, as wise as it is, immediately said, you know what? Let's change the taxes to make it more fair so everybody can. Of course they didn't do that. It's crazy. Of course not. No, they would never do that. They would never do that in life. What did California do? They sent their cops in to seize all of the crop from the black market farmers, and then they used taxpayer dollars to pay a consultant to burn it all. Yes, that's what they did. Government did what it does best. Violence. It's very good at that. So it falls back. What I'm telling you is, if you want a state where the little guy can survive, if you want a city where the small guy has a chance at success, if you want a world where entrepreneurs and people who are trying to hustle can be rewarded, there is only one party that talks about that. That's the Libertarian Party. That's it. That's it. Many of you have seen me for years doing this. I've been doing this stuff for 5 years now. And I have 4 rules in all my policies. 4 rules no matter what. Number 1, even though I will try to fix things, I will never have, ever, an extra tax, fee, or fine. None. Never. Oh, yeah, you cover that. So you guys like taxes. If you like taxes, don't clap. It's fine. Fine, if you like taxes. So no taxes, no fines, no fees. Number 1. Number 2, I'm going to make sure that we focus on the working poor and the middle class. Those are the 2 groups of people you always want to focus on. Why? Because the working poor and the middle class have the best chances to move up and to move down, move up and all around. They're also the ones who help the poorest. They're the ones who show up at the soup kitchen. They're the ones who give. They're the ones who do that. So you help the very poor by supporting the working poor and the middle class. Right? It's critical that we do that. But I have to go further. No force. That's the 3rd part. No force. No extra cops. No false crimes. No phantom crimes. None of that. No force whatsoever. I create a better environment and the people to make the steps they want to make. And 4, whenever dealing with businesses, always support the entrepreneur class over the corporate class. The entrepreneur class, they're the people who are the most innovative. They're the people who grow our economy. They're the people who give people a second chance. And if you need a second chance in life, and some of you know my story, my mom was an addict. She was a felon. So she needed a second chance in life. If you need a second chance in life, it's not big business that helps you. Big business doesn't give you that opportunity or that job. Big business they have their own systems to keep the riffraff out. That's what they do. It's the entrepreneur that says, you know what? I'll give you a chance. You know what? I'll give you a shot. And what I found is when you give people a chance like that, they're some of the best employees you'll ever have. Yes, best employees you ever have. What we forgot is this country used to be about people having a second chance. That's what it was always about. A second chance at life. What happened? Not anymore. Now it's about punish the other, punish the other. No ideas, no concepts, nothing. What we're actually having happen right now is each side, left and right, simply say, other guy bad. That's it. There's literally no policy. There's no way to help. I'm in trouble. Government, I want you to help me. Awesome. Did you know the other guy's worse than me? Well, yeah, but I need help. I know the other guy's worse than me, though. That's what we get every single time. But Larry, you're a libertarian, so you don't want government to help. You want government to let people die. No, what I want is to grow community. I want to set policies that grow community. When the government steps in to help, it doesn't help. It's services. There's a difference. What the government does is say, hey, you have a problem in a checkbox that I create the checkbox for you. You fit in that box, and they go, great. Since you fit in that box, here are the services that come with that box. But in my case, that doesn't help me. I don't care. You fit in that box. Here are your services. Have a nice day. But I can't move up. I understand. Here are your services. Have a nice day. But when community wants to help, community actually does help. Government will write you a check. Community will give you a job and a family. It's a whole different world. But the problem is that we see it now with COVID. There are too many communities who no longer know how to support themselves. Because when you add government, you by default remove community. So sometimes you have situations where communities can't even help themselves anymore. We have to change that. We can make it to where communities step up. Because people need help. People get in trouble. Of course they do. It's human nature. We all fall down. We all make mistakes. We all get unlucky. It happens to all of us. And when that happens, do we have government to support us or community? Here's the problem. When government is in business, government is always two things: a monopoly and a jobs program. Always. So when you only have the government monopoly, what happens when it fails? What happens when a government monopoly fails? Anybody know? Yes, and what happens to MTA? You get more money. Yes. When the government monopoly fails, it is punished by getting more money. Seriously, that's what happens. Exactly. We give it more money. The federal government prints more money, but we just give it more money. That's what happens. Oh, clearly we didn't invest enough if you're a Republican, or we didn't fund it well enough if you're a Democrat. But what that means is here's more money. But what happens when a nonprofit that is not funded by the government fails? What happens? It goes under, another one pops up. It actually has to change. It has to be better. And my answer is not destroy government. My answer is create more community options. As I said, change the environment. More community options pop up so that now they can compete with the government. So government either gets better or goes away. Let me give you one. Oh, thank you. Keep going. Yes. And let me give you one specific policy. Think about this. You have to send a check to Albany every single year. Imagine if you could take $200 that would be going to Albany anyway, and you can give it to any nonprofit you want in New York State. Up to you. Not just that, if it's in your county, imagine if you double that to 500. You might say, Larry, $500, is that going to support some charity? What if 10,000 of you do it? What if 100,000 of you do it? What if 1 million of you do it? Yes, absolutely. And now that nonprofit can support whatever the local community needs. Do you need childcare? Childcare. Do you need a local hospital or local urgent care? Do that. You need an animal shelter? You can do that. What does your community require? What do you need? Now your community steps up. What if it's not what the community needs? You won't give it any money. It'll have to change. What if the government gives you something you don't need? Yeah, nothing. We just get another one. Nothing changes. It stays. It doesn't change. It never does. It's a monopoly. It's a jobs program. Let's go away. But if it is community, it's better. Now, the last piece I'll give to this. If government does it, it is judged in one way. Does it service the community? That's how it's judged. You know this. If you work for a government agency, you know this. I'm not mad if you're a government employee. Please make money, pay your bills. Big fan of paying your bills. Please get any job that pays your bills. But you know how it works if you're a government employee. I've trained many of the government agencies. You check a box. If the boxes are checked, you are doing well. That's how it works, right? Anyone's working in government, you know that. Check boxes. If the boxes are checked, you are winning. Are the people helped? That's not in the box. That's not the box. In fact, the more people who are in trouble, the better off you are. Right? Let's say you're in a situation where you help kids who are hungry. Go to your boss and go, hey, this week we serviced 100 kids who are hungry. Awesome, that's great, good. Okay, next week, 120. Wow, you're the best. The week after, 90. Whoa, what happened? Well, some of the kids were hungry. Well, no. We gotta service 120 kids or we don't get raises. You better find some hungry kids. So now what I just encourage my junior to do, I encourage them to lie. I encourage them to corrupt. I encourage them to fudge numbers. I encourage them to not care about the actual details of my policies anymore. I encourage loosening of policies. I encourage it. So what will he do? He'll act accordingly because he's human and he'll respond to his environment. And if he leaves going, I'm ethical, I'm going to leave, there'll be somebody who will walk in and do it anyway. It just so happen. And this grows and grows and grows. But if I'm a nonprofit supporting the community, how am I judged? If I actually help my community. If there are less hungry kids, I get rewarded. In fact, I've got to show my community there are less hungry kids, or they won't pay me. Community is far stronger than government. We have to make that happen now. We are sadly going the opposite direction. For those of you who saw what our glorious Mayor de Blasio is doing now, he has a bunch of policies. You notice? Lots of them recently. Lots of policies recently, right? Lots. And all these policies are all about helping people, right? What are all these actual policies about? Do you know? Correct. They are all about writing checks to government-funded nonprofits. Government-funded nonprofits are not nonprofits. They are government agencies that are not unionized. Let me say it again. Nonprofits that are funded by the government are just government agencies that are not unionized. That's all they are. All their funding comes from the government. All of their strings comes from the government. They're government agencies. They're just not unionized. So what has he done? He said, I'm going to have a bunch of non-union workers who work so it looks like it's not me and it's community. It's not community. It's government agencies. They're just not unionized. This is where we are. We can change this, guys. If you understand this, we can change this. We can change this. I hope you'll take a few minutes, those of you in New York City, to vote for Stacey Pressman coming up here in November. And I hope you'll consider looking at me if I run for governor in 2022. Thank you, guys. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments on anything you might have had. Even if you're mad, you can yell at me if you like. I don't mind at all. Yes.
No if next year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Please, sir, please. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I think it's like Staten Island or Brooklyn.
All right. No. I'm going to be very forward. I hope I don't make you guys angry. Brooklyn. Sorry. I'm not going to lie to you. Brooklyn. However, my favorite pizza shop is gone. My favorite pizza shop was a pizza shop on 161st Street in the Bronx called Joe's Pizza. Yeah, it's gone now.
So I lived in the Bronx for a while.
You know? And Joe's Pizza became Paula's Pizza. Paula was his daughter. And now it's a Subway. And yes. Now, this is a great transition for a second. This is a big problem. I'm not against Subway. If you like Subway, please eat at Subway. Please. I think franchises are wonderful. But my problem is what we're finding in too many poor communities is nobody owns anything unless it's a franchise. And then the owners of these places, they don't live there. Local people don't own. Why not? They can't afford it. You might go, well, the Subway's a small business. It is, and there's a place For franchises in our market, please enjoy franchises. The problem is there's so many of them because what franchises actually are big business, right? If you run a Subway, you get the law firm and you get all the lawyers and accountants of the massive Subway company. If you just own a sandwich shop, you don't get that. So it actually is a big business. But yes, so Joe's Pizza became Paula's Pizza, became a Subway. So yes, I lost my favorite one. Sorry about that. Yes. Go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you so much for presenting and sharing with us.
Okay. Where are you from originally? Okay.
Stories.
Lower East Side. Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we've seen a lot of them share their virtues
Yep.
when it comes to currency, interface, ketamine,
Yep.
social, activity,
Yep.
and to meet them in the show, by in New York, City,
Yep.
the so-called liberal bastion of the country, by 80%.
Let
Everyone
me-
has been affected. Unfortunately, I've been a target of hate crimes. I've been neglected by civilian review board that does not help us give power back to the police, and a lot of politicians who just take get effing paid for our lives.
You just brought up a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, but the question is, I always ask my politicians, people are running, what are effective solutions
Yep.
that we're taking in ending hate crimes in New York City, state, and really fostering cultural understanding. If we're such a liberal city and there's so much ignorance,
you're giving me too much. You're giving me too much. I'm gonna try to deal with this. You gave me a lot. You gave me a lot. Hold on, relax. I'm gonna give this. You gave me a lot.
Well, drama's never short.
No, I get it, but I want to try to cover a bunch of them. Right. The first thing is that what you just mentioned is actually what our Mayor de Blasio mentioned recently, right? And what he talked about was the idea that right now, particularly in the homeless community, this was his focus. There are many things you brought up. I'm going to only focus for the second on what he said, but I'll go to the police. I'll do the whole thing. He focuses on the homeless community, and what he talked about was the problem in the homeless community is it is a bigger chunk of that population that are GSM, a gender and sexual minority population, right, are in that, and that more often that they're being abandoned, that they've been somehow abused, hurt, a higher percentage. He said, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a special task force, throw $3 million at it, and have people go out and find these people and help them. And what I would say is that's not the right answer. What I would say the right answer is understanding that that population is definitely a problem. That's a real thing. Those who don't know, that's a real thing, right? People of that in that environment, in that population, are in a worse spot. That's a fact. It's true. But if I begin to point them out and actively go after them, two things happen. Number one, now they even feel more pointed out. Two, now I'm actually making it more divisive so that people are angry at them now. So I'm making things worse by specifically pointing them out. What I want to do instead is to focus on the communities that they're in more than any other place, so I can help anybody who's there, whether they're in that group of population or not, knowing that I will be affecting that population by percentage more than others. That's how you can get equity without getting animosity. Does that make sense? The problem is that once you start looking for equity, you wind up encouraging animosity, which then affects the equity because people are fighting it because of the animosity. So I've got to get equity without animosity. That's not 100%. But I brought that up because that was specific, right? But the next thing is I'm gonna go to cops now if I can. Cops, the general rule. The average cop. I'm not anti-cop. People think in terms of anti-cop. I'm not anti-cop at all. My father was law enforcement. Not anti-cop. The reality of what most cops are. Cops respond to their environment also. If they're taught that it's easy to beat these people up or fight with these people or take their money or get an easy collar or make their DA happy or whatever, they act accordingly because they're cops. What we don't understand is what most cops are affected by more than anything else is the DA. If the DA doesn't prosecute crimes of certain types, cops don't arrest those people. Cops arrest the people that DA prosecutes. That's how it works. If the DA says, hey, I'm not going to prosecute this crime, or I'm going to leave this alone, or it better have A, B, and C when it comes to my desk, then cops don't act accordingly. Cops, I say also, they act within their environment too. Cops are just humans. So now if I say, I don't want you grabbing someone, as an example, a sex worker, which the odds are higher that sex worker will be in the GSM community, the odds are higher. Of course, there are people in the sex worker community who aren't, but the percentage are higher. If I say, I'm not going to prosecute that unless you have evidence of violence, evidence of this, evidence of that, right? Did she punch the guy? Did she stab the guy? Is there evidence? There's no evidence of that. I'm not going to prosecute it. Cops leave you alone. So if we only punish the cop, and that's all we do, I'll touch punish cops in a second. If we only punish cops, all we do is create more animosity, which affects equity. I have to get equity without animosity. And that's the DA. You focus on the DA and you will watch an entirely different type of police force, number one. But I'm still not done. Why don't cops have their own insurance? I bring this up all the time. Why don't cops have their own insurance? I'm a professional. I have my own insurance. If you're a professional, you have your doctor, you're a lawyer, you have your own insurance. Why don't cops have their own liability insurance? If a cop has their own liability insurance, what does that mean? If they start doing things that are bad or they get in trouble or they have a problem, their insurance rates go up. If they make a mistake, and cops are human, they will make mistakes. They're just human beings. They might have a little bit of an uptick in their insurance and then they move on. But if that is a bad cop and they are doing bad things, their insurance will go up so high that they can't afford to be a cop anymore. Or they won't be able to get insured, so they can't be a cop anymore. This weeds out bad cops and allows good cops to still shine. So why don't cops have their own insurance? Qualified insurance, yes. But I'll go even further. Instead of someone deciding, and you see this all the time, and the death of George Floyd is a perfect example of this. You had the right go back to blue, you had the left yell defund the police, and no one had an answer. I just gave you 3 answers. To be forward, there's probably 7 more on top of that, because what you talked about is a big, deep issue that actually requires more things to be done. But I tried to give you a couple to let you know that I have thought of this, and I have policies, and they do matter, and I don't just want a short-term solution. I want a long-term solution, and more importantly, I want a cultural solution. I don't just want a legal solution. I want a cultural one. Because the next thing that we don't see, you don't have politicians, particularly executives, mayors, governors, presidents, simply saying, guys, be nice. Stop fighting people. I'm not joking. I'm very serious. The glory of the Libertarian Party is this. You can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force your views on others. That's the issue. Yes. So if I don't like what you're doing, I don't like that thing you're doing, actually, I don't like it. I can say it. I don't like that thing you're doing. It's the beard thing. I can't stand that thing. Yes. So I don't like it. I got a beard myself, so I'm totally different. So yes, I don't like that thing. And that's okay. I can say it. But I have no power to move him, change him in any way, shape, or form. I know I just said I got magic powers, but I can't do that. And when we begin to understand that the key to us living together is actually tolerance. And who talks about that? Nobody does. Nobody does. I talk about 2 crazy things. Tolerance and happiness. Yes, happiness. Happy people don't commit crimes. Happy people stay in New York. Happy people don't yell at others. Remember something. Hurt people hurt. Yes. When you're hurt, you hurt others. When you're happy, you don't hurt people. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness was in our founding documents. Why don't we keep thinking about that? So I would like that. But there's something else. I also practice what I preach. I talked about cannabis being regular like onions. I don't use cannabis. The only drug I use is caffeine. That's it. That's it. I'm like a Mormon. I mean, Mormons got me beat. They don't use caffeine. But everybody, other than the Mormon, I'm the squarest guy in the room. I don't even drink. But you know what? If you want to drink, drink. If you want to, it's fine. If you don't, don't. I'm fine. Just be happy. You want to use cannabis, use cannabis. Doesn't matter. I'm totally okay with that. And the example that I set has to be the one that makes other people really care. I talk about family laws. You've seen that. About fixing the family law system. I didn't go to the family law. I didn't go to divorce. It didn't happen. I've been married 20 years. But still, I know it matters. The only person who you'll hear this who say this is libertarian. All of your rights matter all the time. It's not don't tread on me. It's don't tread on anyone. That's what it's about. Don't tread on anyone. So there were other things, but did I at least answer your question? I'm sorry, did I at least answer your question?
Somewhat. I mean,
what did I miss? Tell me.
I just, for me, where it's coming from, like you say, the balance of the cultural legislation and the actual legislation.
Yep.
And you're not relying on the law to protect the
Correct.
people on the street.
Yes.
And it always means that this liberal talking is not being trickled down from the previous programs, but I would like to be widely available to get and programs.
So hold on one second. I'm glad you just said that's both of those two. When you right now, when you if you get health insurance, right? Health insurance right now. What does a health insurance company ask companies to do? Anybody know?
List your already existing issues.
But what does it ask the companies to do? Actively do? Anybody know? Wellness programs. It gives them benefits, but it gives them benefits for wellness programs, right? The insurance company says if you do a wellness program, I will lower your rates. That's what it says. What would an insurance company do if it had to insure cops? What would it do? De-escalate, so I don't have to pay your lawsuits when you beat people up. They would literally do that. The insurance company would literally have an incentive to say, guys, why are you shooting everybody? You could stop. Don't hit them. Don't do that. But it's also not a culture. That's not a cultural change. That's a checkbox. I was a Marine. They gave us that stuff too. We checked the box and ignored them. That's checkbox. There has to be a cultural change. So that's the one piece I wanted to bring up right away. That goes right to that. The second piece. I'm sorry, what? Go ahead, please.
I'm also a veteran.
You in the Army? Okay.
Look at
You look wonderful, my friend. Don't worry about it.
Now, the war is over.
Yep.
Hundreds of soldiers have I'm in the hospital. I still have to down.
Yep.
That's still
Absolutely.
as far as a state level.
Yep.
As far as from my experience,
yep.
When they come out, they are caught in gridlock
yep.
of our system.
The VA does not do a good job. I agree. Yep.
That checkbox system.
Yep.
Of either the crack VA.
Yep.
Or whatever, and you see the country.
I see it everywhere. Yep.
You know, as far as the dating back to even Vietnam.
Let me touch that. I'm with you completely, brother. Let me touch that piece.
So
the way we treat our veterans, generally speaking, is much heavily based upon our federal guidelines. However, at a state level, we can have some help with the National Guard. So a lot of the Guard also deployed. When the Guard comes back, we have more control over helping out the Guard. But something else. This goes back to community. And I'm a veteran, you're a veteran, you know this. What do veterans want more than anything else when they get back? They want to be back into a community, and they don't feel it. They feel separated. They feel different. They feel not the same, and that is the problem. That's the key to the issue. When they feel like they're part of a community, you will see things change. There are several ways to do that. At the big business level and at the local level. At the big business level is something simple. Simply talking about veteran affiliate groups in large companies. More of them exist now than in the past, but in the past didn't exist. You would know how many people of color were in your company. You know how many women are in your company. You would know how many people who were gay or lesbian in your company. But you would not know who's a veteran in your company. Why? There was no checkbox for it and no affiliate group. That didn't exist. But now, more and more are starting to have that. So focus on that. So now when a veteran joins that company, They know, oh, you're a veteran, you survived in this company. Can I use you to mentor me through this? Do I have a community? That's an important piece. Some of you may not know this, but when a veteran has their first job, about 50% lose their job in the first year. That's a common problem. They lose a job in the first year. They can't find purpose. They can't find community. They're unhappy and they leave. Or worse, thank you, they turn to substances. That's correct. And they don't show up. So yes, they're substances. So that's the other piece. So that's step one. At a local level, this goes back to what I talked about. Community. Have you seen how empty the American Legions are? Yes, I'm an American Legion member. Do you see how empty they are? The veterans of foreign wars. They are empty. Why? Because there is no support structure for them. And I've come up with two different ideas for them to do that. One was the one I talked about earlier, being able to give your money to a local VFW or to a local American Legion if you want to, your tax money if you want to. Second, allowing those groups, if they want to have child care gardens. Yes, I'm serious. Child care gardens, voluntarily if you want to allow those facilities, and most of those facilities have large open areas. Many of them have yards. Many of them have common rooms. If you want to allow it to happen, they can, for whatever price you want to. And to allow the community to get back into those community centers. You can start using those places as community centers. When they become community centers, you give veterans purpose. When you give veterans purpose, they show up. And when they show up, they're not doing drugs, and they're not getting in trouble, and they're not putting the shotgun in their mouth. Does that answer your question at least?
Don't answer my. I was going to answer a question along those lines, but as far as I think a big problem I also see is accessibility to veteran services.
So let me move on to that next, if I could. The VA should be, and this is something that I can't handle, the VA should not be a series of hospitals or doctors. The VA should simply be an insurance company. That's it. Go where you want to go, insurance company. That's all it should be. And that's the federal level, my friend. I can't stop that, but I can talk about it. That I can do. You should be able to go get the services you need to get to help yourself out the way you need to help yourself out. You should just be an insurance company. That's it. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback on the last question. First one, how do you stop the violence against self-defense?
That
New York
too.
City has
Yes.
an absolute stigma
Yep.
against self-defense.
Yes.
And that means every citizen, especially those that have target on them, or that stand out as different, or have the animosity, acceptance, and equities. We're not allowed to self-defend ourselves in any way.
Yep.
Not allowed to have a taser, not allowed to have, a knife, not allowed to
Yes.
have a gun, no training, no license. We are literally left vulnerable in our own street and told that even if we don't self-defend, that we would be charged.
Correct. Yes.
So self-defense is a huge way to build self-esteem, to prevent domestic violence, prevent violence against minorities, trans, community, GSM, anybody who feels that they're weak or being hoped. So that's number one.
I love that. Let me hold on to let me touch that real fast. The point she made up is a very valid one. Why in the world would I, a New York City guy, be so pro-Second Amendment? Why? Because I know what happens in bad neighborhoods. In bad neighborhoods, who are the people who get mugged? Who are the people who get beat up? Not including gang violence. It's the vulnerable. It's the elderly, it's the older guy or the older gal, or it's someone who they think is weak. It's a mom who has children. It's someone who's part of the GSM community who they're afraid, who's afraid. It's someone like that. Of course, that's who it is. It's people who won't report. GSM community does not report crimes usually when they get crime against them. That's easy target. But imagine if all of a sudden one old man drew down on some thug and put a bullet in him. I'm serious. Change the game. That's no longer an easy target. Maybe I don't want to knock that guy over because I might take a bullet if I do that. Maybe I don't want to bother that woman who I think might be trans, maybe, I could be, she might have a gun. Maybe I don't want to do that. It will change the game. I don't have to have everybody carry a gun. Larry wants to arm all the old men. No. I just want to let people know that that old man might have a gun. That sex worker might have a gun. That mom who has 2 kids might have a gun. She might. And if she does, maybe that's not easy talking to anymore. Go do something else. So I think you're totally correct. But I'm saying I don't need everyone to have a gun. If you want to have a gun, you should be able to if you want to. But I do not want everyone to have one because I say so. Again, I change the environment, and then people do what they feel is appropriate. So thank you for that. Yes.
The second thing, so I was delighted to get a gun is $400 plus the fees plus registration plus training.
Yep.
And then there's so many rules that you'll trip over if you don't sell.
This is why I don't have a gun, because I don't want to go to jail.
Right.
You're right.
So they make it very difficult
Correct.
to self-defense. The
Yes.
second thing about the VA is it needs to be fixed. It
Yep.
needs to be changed. There are organizations out there, or the veteran service organizations that you go to
Yep.
in your community that will help you navigate the bureaucracy of the paper. So you have places like you have Verification Actual Health.
Absolutely. Yep.
You have the Disabled American Veterans.
Yep.
You have actual, like you said, the community organization help you navigate the government programs.
Yes.
So if there's any veterans that are out there that feel lost, and trust me, their paperwork is a barrier to every program
Yes,
out
it
there.
is.
Find a service organization, a veteran service organization to help you navigate that. They will literally hold your hand throughout the whole way.
I completely agree, guys. Thank you all. Yes, go ahead.
People who are veterans, there's a vet center right down the street that'll help those people find direction. No people have gone down there.
There we go.
And set them on the right path.
There we go. Absolutely. And what you've just done is just proven my point from the beginning. Community is stronger than government. You've all just proved my point. Community is stronger than government. We have to change our communities, have strong communities, and change our culture. We do that, we'll have a better state, we'll have a better city. Guys, thank you so much for today. I appreciate it. Thank you. You guys for watching. Thank you.